Hi everybody, my name's Kristalina. This is baby Aylin, and welcome to another episode of the Knitty Vampire vlog, podcast, whatever you want to call it. It's been a while, I think over a year now since episode 1. I think we can all agree 2020 was a pandemic year and it just was not a productive one in terms of vlogging or podcasting. And as you can see, we've got a new little co-host since last time. She was born on Thanksgiving. She's about 4 months old now, and she was hungry, so we decided to come outside and check on our little garden. Yeah, I don't think I can do what I wanted to, but this is my green stalk. We've got some spinach on the top, some curly kale, some Brussel sprouts, and then as we move over to this side, we've got some broccoli and some lettuce as well. And these are gonna need some water today, so as soon as she's done eating, I'll go on ahead and get those watered. But yeah, we're coming to you from northern Alabama. We've also moved in the past year, about 30 minutes north of Huntsville, and we decided this year that we're gonna garden a little bit more seriously, try to make some of our own food and take a step towards our homesteading goals, and just kind of prep and start learning a little bit about the garden. So we got the green stalk and we've got some cool other crops in there. We should actually be able to start harvesting some of that spinach, some of that kale. The Brussels sprouts and the broccoli look like they're going to take a little bit longer. Could probably harvest some of that lettuce too. But yeah, so we're doing that, and then we'll go inside and I'll show you the seedlings that we have started, and then we'll talk about some knitting and fiber adventures. Yeah, so come on in and let's go look at the seedlings. Alright, so this is our little seedling setup. Got a grow light, but I just haven't put it up yet. So we've got quite a few plants here, as you can see. Some of these will go in the green stalk, some of these will go in a container. We're debating doing a raised bed or an in-ground bed. Haven't quite decided yet. But yeah, so we've got like plenty of stuff in here. So we got like ground cherries and lavender, catnip, parsley. My chamomile is dying over here. Lots of tomatoes. Got some celery. There are some kale seedlings. The one little radish right there. I'll be planting some more later today. And then we've got like peas and leeks. A lot of my cool weather stuff that I started from seed I put out too early to try to harden off, and they died. So that's why I got the starts. But then we've got like over here is some oregano and some thyme. Got this one little one is actually a Mexican sour gherkin cucamelon. Then up here we've got a lot of like our eggplant and peppers and cilantro and green beans, or not green beans, I'm sorry, soybeans, which is this really long one here. Some Boston pickling cucumbers, some watermelon, sage. So I will be listing all of these varieties down below in case anybody's interested. But yeah, these actually are in Aylin's nursery because it's the room that gets the most light. And even so, some of them are, as you can see, very leggy from when they were started and not getting a lot of light last month. So yeah, I'm hoping our last frost is anticipated to be in April 15th to be exact. And I'm hoping that the 10-day forecast allows us to do that. I won't put the tomatoes or the peppers out until probably May, just because I want to make sure that it stays warm enough at night. But the rest of these will probably go out sometime in April, which will be very exciting. But yeah, that's all the seedlings, and I'll show progress and growth and such for my records, along with, just showing you for interest, basically. And yeah, that's about it for gardening. So I guess now we'll move on into fiber arts. Alright guys, Aelin is now asleep. And Luke is trying to make Anzac biscuits. So you might hear some noises in the background as he's cleaning and prepping and cooking and doing things like that. I guess I should also mention today is March 21st, 2021. It is a beautiful spring-like day here in Alabama. Yeah, so I guess we'll start with finished objects. Now this one is kind of finished. It doesn't have ends woven in yet. Still need to do that, but it'll do. So my first finished object is a cowl. And this is just the way I blocked it. I somehow managed to block it wider on the top than on the bottom, but that's okay. So this is actually a design of mine that I created for the Wyche's Holiday Yarn Advent. And this is the flower basket cowl. This came in the Ostara box. Now this is not available as a kit anymore. It came with a skein of yarn. You could choose. This is Dracula. This is the DK base. This is Salvatore. It's the pole. These are both 100% superwash New Zealand Polworth wool. This is just a fingering weight, and this is a DK weight. This is 400 meters per 100 grams. This is 225 meters per 100 grams. The cowl is knit in a DK weight, so you could use one of these or just hold one of these fingering weights double to get the same gauge. I had used up most of the skein, so it will require basically one full skein. And the construction of it is just basically a basket weave on the bottom with some dandelion stitches on top, and then this little bit here where it goes sideways, that's actually crochet. So it's mostly knit, and then on the very end you do this little crochet top for the top of the basket, and it fits really well. Yeah, it's just a really nice cowl to have. Obviously the ends are poking out right now, but yeah, I mean, fits nicely. And like the top I did in a US 7. You could do it in a US 6 and cinch it in a little bit more, but yeah, I like the way that it came out. I think it's really cute. Perfect for like a springtime transition where it's still cooler at night but warmer during the day. But even in the days in Alabama, it's still like 60s right now. So yeah, so that's the first finished object, and this color is Ostara. Again, part of the Wyche Holiday Yarn Club that I did. And yeah, so that is my finished object. I am also, and this one's kind of going to go into works in progress now. My hair is just like so frizzy today, and I don't know why. Fine, we'll leave it up. So this is actually like segued into works in progress. So I am participating in the Desert Vista Dye Works 7th annual sock club. It's called a club. It's just mostly actually a knit along. So I am determined to do all 12 months so that I can knit 12 pairs of socks in a year. Now, the thing with this knit along is all of the yarn has to be Desert Vista Dye Works yarn. So this was my January sock, and it's all done. It was just a vanilla sock, top down, garter ridge, heel flap and gusset. These have been worn. The colorway was Zombody, Yogi, and Boo Boo. So these ones were for me. These were knit on a US 2.25 millimeter US 1 needle, magic loop. I believe, if I remember correctly, I did 15 rows in a 2x2 rib for the cuff. I did about 55 rows for the leg or so. Gusset, an additional 45 rows, and then a rounded toe at the end. So these were for me, and I did finish the pair. So these are for me. And then February, I decided I was going to knit Luke a pair of socks. Now, with that being said, Luke wears a US size 13. So I knit him these, and I did just stockinette with 1 row of a 2x2 ribbing before binding off, and did a fish lips kiss heel for him. This colorway is Carrot Cake. Again, same method, magic loop, rounded toe. These I did toe up, so it was a rounded toe. I think these took about 85 rounds for the foot, and then I did about 30 rounds for the leg before doing a cuff. Now, the issue with this is when I bound it off too tight. Also, Luke prefers a shorter leg, but I kind of wanted these a bit longer for him. So I actually ended up going back this month and ripping out the bind off and the 1 row of ribbing, because I couldn't even get it over my foot. So he wasn't going to be able to get it over his foot with the bind off. And so I went back, and this is actually where I picked up the bind off edge. And then I knit another, I think it was 20 rows. 30 rows. So a 60 row leg. For him, and then I'll probably do about 15 rows of 2x2. I just started the ribbing 2x2, so it just gives him a little bit more length. And this Progress Keeper is adorable. It's a little hot dog. My camera will focus. It might not, but yeah, this is a simply serving Progress Keeper, and it's just like a little wiener dog in a bun with ketchup and mustard on it, which I thought was really cute. So I'm working on these sporadically. They were finished for February, so they count, and then I just have to go back and modify them a bit, so that way we can get something that's actually usable for him. Which brings me to my March socks. Now, my March socks are actually over here. And I kind of messed up. So, as you can see, I've got this toe, right? I was going to do the skew socks, which can't remember who the pattern designer is, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to do a vanilla sock. I've done vanilla socks for 2 months in a row. I want to do something different. Yeah, well, Ambitious Crystal did not think about the fact that she has a test knit that is very involved, that needs to get done. It's a secret, so I can't show it, but what I can say is that it's all over color work, and it's a lot. So I still have quite a bit to go on that one. That needs to get done as soon as possible. So I had started this with every intention, and then thought about it, and I was like, okay, look, there's no way. There's no way that I'm going to be able to work on that test knit and have the brain space for, even though it's like a vanilla sock in the sense that like it is mostly stockinette with like increases and decreases at the end of every row, and then it's like a weird heel that kind of gives it to you. I normally knit my socks as a 64 stitch, and this was a 72 stitch, which is the same as Luke's socks. Luke's were 72 stitches. But I didn't have the brain space, and I would have to keep looking at the pattern and looking at the pattern and looking at the pattern, and it just got to be too much. So I started on the other side, and I'm in the middle of a row, which of course I am, and decided I was just going to do vanilla socks. Now, again, because brain space, I normally do a rounded toe, but because I forgot to do the increases, I have a wedge toe, which is fine. It'll still fit. Just means that I don't have to knit as much for the foot before I do the heel. And I'm going to do a fish lips heel on these ones, but this is my first sock. And it is March 21st, and I have 10 days left to knit the rest of this and another sock. So the good news is, though, is that yesterday I was here. And so I knit all of this yesterday at dinner for mine and Luke's 3-year date anniversary. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, we went to a Korean barbecue place for dinner last night, and while we were waiting for our table, I had a couple drinks and was just sitting and knitting on this, because socks just make really great portable projects. They're just extremely enjoyable, and especially if you have a vanilla sock, you don't even really have to look at what you're doing. You can just kind of go around and around and around and carry on a conversation like I am right now while I am knitting. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think it was the first time that we had actually gone to a sit-down restaurant other than my birthday during COVID. So because I was pregnant most of last year, I found out I was pregnant about 2 weeks after lockdown started, and so a lot of last year, we didn't go to restaurants or anything. And then for my birthday, we went to a restaurant in Huntsville. So end of September. I was about 7 months pregnant at the time. We went to a sit-down restaurant that had a lot of really good social distancing guidelines and mask requirements and things like that. So since then, we haven't gone anywhere and had like a sit-down meal. So last night was the first time that we went, and it was a lot of fun. My parents watched Aylin, so it was like our first date night since having her 4 months ago. But yeah, so these socks are, again, Desert Vista Dye Works, 64 stitches, US 1, 2.25 millimeter, and I'm using my Chiagus on a 16-inch cord, I believe it is. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a 16-inch cord. It's my favorite method of knitting socks. I don't really enjoy circulars. I really hate DPNs, and I don't know, there's just something about Magic Loop. It just kind of makes life easy for me, I guess, because I don't need a stitch marker for my beginning of round. I normally just use the tail to tell me where the beginning of my round is. But anyways, so this colorway is Roadrunner and Zombody Coyote, I believe it is. This one's actually like a pretty cool stripe sequence, and you can see it a lot more in this one. So it goes like green, and then you got like that Zombody speckle stripe, and it's more of like a cream colored base. Then you got like the light brown, the dark brown, the blue, and then it's another Zombody stripe, but it's actually different from the first one. It's more of like a blue-gray kind of base to it. And then you've got black, you know, the tan, and then the green again before you go back to the Zombody speckling. And so it's super enjoyable. I'm having a blast. Like, that's the thing that I love about self-striping yarn, is that even when you're knitting vanilla socks, it's still interesting because the color stripes change every time you go to a new color block, and you don't have to change yarn, and you don't have to weave in a million ends. So it is really enjoyable for me to knit. I quite enjoy it. I like it a lot. But yeah, and then I've got a sweater that I'm working on, and I am super excited. I want this sweater so bad. I did the Make 9 2021 goals for this year. Out of the 9, I have finished 2 of them so far. I finished my advent calendar habitation throw, which is in my bedroom, and I just realized that I should probably have showed it. But Aylin is sleeping in there, and I am not about to disturb her, so I will bring it on next time to see. I also still have 1.5 million ends to weave in on that blanket, so it's not done. It's not blocked or anything like that. Oops. So I had the habitation throw that I had wanted to finish. I didn't finish it in December before Christmas. I finished it mid-January-ish or beginning of January. And then I had started an Ursa at the end of last year out of some loops and thread, eco cozy or something like that. Again, it's in the bedroom, and I'm not going to disturb her just to go get it. So that I knit and finished in January. I just haven't posted any finished object pictures yet because I just haven't had a chance to take any. But yeah, so those were 2 of my Make 9 2021s. And then another one that I really wanted to knit was a tulip sweater or tulip jumper by Melody Hoffman, who is B Mandarins on Instagram and Ravelry. And it's just a really simple top-down raglan with a scalloped ribbed hem. And from what I can tell, it uses short rows to get you the scalloped edged hem. And so I was really excited for it, and I decided this year that any projects that I was going to start that were newer, I really wanted to use either stash if I had enough, which I have a lot of single skeins in my stash. I don't have any sweater quantities. So if it's a sweater, I'd have to buy yarn. And if I was going to buy yarn, I wanted to buy something other than merino. I want more rusticy type wool, comfy, cozy sweaters, basically. My word of the year is curate. And a lot of that is I'm curating my wardrobe. Okay, so the little one has now awoken. Big burps. So she's gonna podcast with mommy. So yeah, curate. A big part of that is making sure that things that I'm knitting, garments specifically that I'm knitting, work in my wardrobe. So more neutrals, things that kind of just all go together. So a lot of my stash is single skeins, brightly colored. So things that I'd want like more accessories or socks or gift knits type deal. So for the tulip jumper, I did go on ahead and make a purchase of some Legacy Fiber Arts. Now the pattern calls for a DK weight yarn. Specifically, I think it's made out of like a Honan Rocher, I think is how you say it, the Nutiden yarn. It's similar to a Plutolopi type yarn where it's like the unspun pencil roving type yarn. So it calls for like that with being held together with a lace weight mohair silk yarn. And that was going to be super expensive for me to do a sweater's quantity of mohair and of like a Plutolopi type yarn held together, because I have I think it's like a 48-inch bust, but I like ease in my sweater, so it was going to be like a 50 to 52-inch-ish type bust sweater, which is a lot of yarn. It's a lot of yarn, and it ends up being very expensive. So instead, I decided that I was going to knit it out of worsted weight yarn, because then I only need 1 sweater quantity instead of 2 sweaters quantities of different yarns. And I decided to go with the Legacy Fiber Arts Flock Worsted, which is their non-superwash 100% Peruvian wool, 218 yards per 100 grams. I believe I bought 6 to 8 skeins. I forget exactly how many. But I bought it in the Espresso Bean colorway, which is like this really, really pretty neutral brown color. And I balled up my first skein and I cast on. Now, I didn't get super far. I did the ribbing and I am currently on the short rows and I've stopped. And the reason that I've stopped is because I'm going to have to rip it out and re-knit it. I knit the ribbing on a US 6 and it's too tight of a neckline. It comes up too far for my personal comfort. And so I need to rip it back out and knit it on a US 7 needle instead, which is kind of a pain because it is a tubular cast on. So it's worth it. It gives like the really, really pretty like rolled edge type look to it. So it's a really nice like finishing type aspect. But yeah, I basically just need to go back and knit it on a US 7 instead of a US 6. And then the body, I got gauge with a US 8. So I just need to go back US 7 to US 8 instead of US 6 to US 8. And a US 8 is a 5mm needle. So I believe a US 6 is a 4mm and a US 7 is a 4.5mm. I could be wrong about that though. And again, I'm knitting them on Chiagus. For Christmas, I got a Chiagu interchangeable set for sizes 2 through 8 US, which I believe is a 2.5 to 5mm needle set. And I love it. I'm so excited for it. I loved this one especially because I just threw on like the US 6 tips. And then when it was ready to go to a US 8, I just changed out the needles and kept it on the same cord. So it was a lot less like faffing around with it. But yeah, so I just need to rip it out and re-knit it. Now this is not a priority knit by any stretch of the imagination. I do need to get that test knit done before I really make some progress on this. But this was just supposed to be, like once I got through the ribbing and the short rows, just a very simple, mindless top-down sweater. So I might not, by next time, I might not rip it out and cast it back on. It'll probably stay off the needles until I finish that other sweater. But, alright, so she got a little fussy there, so now we're eating to calm down. So yeah, as I was saying, I really want to do a lot more with my 2021 Make 9. I have a Monstera cardigan by Joji Locatelli that is already cast on, and about 1.5 inches of the back is worked, and that's being knit out of a CVM Romney blend, I believe, in natural colored wool from Woolhala Tunis out of Arizona. It was some yarn that I picked up from Tempe Yarn and Fiber right before we left Arizona. So I cast that on last year and then never worked on it because if you haven't seen it, it's an all-over cabled cardigan that requires you to do the back, the sides, and I believe you seam it. I don't know. I need to look at it again. It's been a while since I picked it up and worked on it. It's kind of become a UFO lingering with. So there's that on my Make 9 2021. I want to knit the Sashiko sweater by Bristol Ivy. That one specifically I want to knit out of Plies and Hellhounds yarn in their, I believe it's Marie Cutie base, and I think it's Corriedale maybe, or it's a Polworth. No, Isaac's Polworth. I think it's a Corriedale. It's not her MCN base or any Merino base or Polworth. It's her other base, and I want to do that out of one of the Advent colors called Neath's Arrow, because that was a really pretty like light brown neutral with flecks of navy and like sky blue in it, and I think it just would be really pretty out of DK weight. And then I want to knit the Gaindeer Cozy Kofta sweater. Now on there I have the cardigan because that's the only one that's out right now, but I'm pretty sure within the next year she's going to be doing the pullover, or she just released the pullover version of it. And I might do that. And that I'm kind of debating if I want to do Jameson and Smith, because that can get super pricey for the size that I want in it. Or I might do Roma Phenol Garn. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out which yarn I want to use for that. I very well may just buy like some natural wool from somebody and just do it that way. And then I want to knit the little twigs, I think it's called, or the twigs pullover by Melody Hoffman, where again it's, I think this one is a bottom up sweater, and then the yoke is, it looks like little branches along the yoke, and I want to knit that out of Green Mountain Spinnery or Peace Fleece. Haven't quite figured out which one yet. I've got a couple of designs I want to do, and then I want to knit. So I started the Slip Stravaganza by Stephen West right when the first clue came out. Like, I got my yarn, I was all excited for it. You know, I tried keeping up with it. Ooh, my battery's running off. I tried keeping up with it, but couldn't, and it's still been put on hold, especially since like after I had her, and it's just a really big project with a lot of stitches on it. So I think I'm in the middle of clue 3, I think is what it is. So I still need to finish that. I want to knit the Solaris shawl by Melanie Berg. And then the very last thing I want to do is I've got this. Aylin's being baptized next month, and I really want to knit her baptismal gown. And this is just some Bernat Baby in white. I really want to do the petite knit, I think it's Ellen's christening dress. Just really pretty, top down, short sleeve, dandelion stitches going down the skirt. But again, she's getting baptized April 25th. So I've got a month to knit her this while finishing a sweater and knitting a pair of socks. So we'll see what happens. Worst case scenario, I'll buy her again. I'm really not too worried about it. But yeah, I think that's everything. No shop news right now. I've got nothing going on really in the shop. No new releases coming out anytime soon. Well, I say anytime soon, but not until next month. So I think I'm going to try to do these pretty regularly. I'm not, like, I was really obsessed with, like, making sure I had my makeup on and it was quiet and, you know, I was going to have no distractions and I could just talk about my knitting. I've got a 4-month-old and I work full-time and it's still COVID. So I think we're just kind of going to go with the flow and do a lot more of, like, vlog style / sitting in t-shirts and stuff, and kind of see how that format goes. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys soon.